Oh, it's starting. I could see David dancing on the music. It was wonderful. You missed something, chat. You missed something. Hey, you know what? Welcome on .NET Live, another week with a lot of content. Very excited about this episode. I'm Frank Boucher, one of your regular hosts. I'm joined today with David and Scott. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Happy to have you on board. And today we don't have only one, but we have two guests. Very excited. So welcome. I will let you introduce. So I don't know, maybe Mariam, do you want to start? Introduce yourself first.
Hi, I'm Mariam Aziz. I'm originally from Egypt. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft for the past 3.5 years. And that's it.
Wonderful. And now Darius.
Hey, I'm Darius. I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. So this is a community show. So for the next hour, our role is really to empower the community to share and learn, and that's what we will be doing. So it's a totally unscripted, as you can see. It's never the same introduction, so it's definitely not following a script. I'm not doing that on purpose. It is just kind of like, this is what it is. So very excited.
Can I just say, have no fear. We'll have David dance at the end. We all know that's what you came here for. So.
Oh, wonderful. I love that. So did I tease people enough though they are asking it? I love you. Yeah. Wonderful. We'll have that. So where do we start today? I think I know you have a lot of Visual Studio and code and things to share with us. So how do we start that?
Yeah. So everyone, thanks for joining. Today, we're going to be talking about making compliance and privacy like first-class citizen in .NET apps. So rather than an afterthought where you bolt on log scrubbing or regular expression filters later on, we bake it all into the code from day one from the design. So we could show you how you can annotate your models with compliance attributes like personal data or PII. And then we let the framework itself do the heavy lifting for you. So automatic redaction and logs, including incoming and outgoing HTTP logs, and even generating audit artifacts for you. So you can sit there and have a proof that my app is doing the compliance that we expect it to do.
Nice. I feel like that's a pretty big subject, like compliance. Like when I think about compliance all up, like, and I try to relate it back to like .NET. I mean, you said it very well. Like, so you're talking about decorating models and annotating them such that you can be compliant. But like, how do you even define compliance? Is that like each company has to do it, or is there some standard?
There's no opinion. Yeah, there's no opinion with the framework that we've built. It's basically up to the company, whatever you do for your compliance. This has the primitives that can support that.
Okay, cool.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, it's a big topic. In Europe, there's GDPR. In America, I know California has their own set of compliance. Or if you're a healthcare business, HIPAA is huge. So things like this have been around for a long time. But I don't think that there's been any native .NET APIs available to help you with this. And so it's always an afterthought. It's always something that you have to do after the application's built.
Oh yeah, it feels like that often where people are like, okay, we're big enough now. Let's get, some compliance so we're sure we're safe and like it's all well done. But no, I'm very excited about today. So like I feel like I will learn how to make it the right way.
Yeah, speaking of afterthought, I think of this as another thing that fits into the category of authentication. Any kind of security concern for your application is typically an afterthought. The developer recognizes its importance, but it's not the most exciting thing that they're wrangling with.
That's definitely true. Yeah.
But we aim to make this exciting. Mariam, did we want to start with sharing your Visual Studio and start to look through some code?
Yes. So the first thing we'll be doing today is we'll be installing the .NET packages that's needed for compliance. So first of all, we will install the Microsoft Extensions Compliance Abstractions package, which will be used to create our own taxonomy or data classification. So the first thing we will do, I have a simple project here, and I will create a new class where I will create my taxonomy, and I will call it just compliance taxonomy. Okay, I will have it as a public. Anyway, so here we will start defining our taxonomy. So let's say, for example, we have an application that will be dealing with multiple data. Some of them would be private, some of them would be public, some of them would be customer data, some of them support data. So here we define this. First, we create a string for the taxonomy name. So here we'll have name, and here will be, for example, compliance taxonomy. Okay. And here we start creating our data classifications. So data classification, which is inside the package we just created, and we create our data classification. For example, we have some data that will be public, so we'll have public information or public data, whatever we want to call it, and it would be new. And this will take two things: the name of the taxonomy and whatever value we want for this data classification. So for here would be name, which is what we just created, just name. And here would be the name of this data classification we just made. Yeah, that's
You gotta love Copilot, just being like, here, I know what you want to do.
Super helpful.
Yeah, so this is the
Well, one is static, so the other one will have to be like a constant or a static.
yeah, so public static thing. I just removed the wrong thing. Yeah, so this would be the data classification we want. We will have also, for example, private one, private, and it will be the same thing. I have a lot of data classifications in mind, but let's leave it as this for now.
So I do have a quick question. So when we're looking at like this taxonomy, I understand the name, and that we're creating like data classifications.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is it common to have one that is explicitly public, or would it be okay to leave it implicitly public and then just classify things that are only private? Does that make sense?
So you can have it as internal, but if you want it just to be shared between multiple projects, you can just have it as public.
Okay.
This is based on your scenario, but for now, I just have it as public for it.
It's a great question, though, and it shows that we're not opinionated at all, right? So
Okay.
if you want to be explicit and call out, hey, here's all my public data, and then you have like a report that generates that shows all your public data, you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like
There's
okay.
also multiple options later on that we'll see that you can configure this, and we can talk about it then.
Okay.
Yeah. So after now we created our data classification, we will try to create the attributes or the tags that we will annotate the data with. So for example, here we have some login class that uses the logger of .NET, the fast loading in .NET, and it has multiple login statements. And I have here a controller that will be logging these statements whenever I hit any of these inputs. Okay, so to be able to tag these parameters in here, I have to create these parameters using the data classification I just created. So we'll have, for example, private data. What did I do? I call it in the first place. So private information. So we'll have a new class called private information attribute. And this will use the data class. Oh, too much. Classification attribute. Yes. Yes, exactly. It does all what I want. So here we just in the constructor we pass the string we want, which is the name of the taxonomy. That is not correct, but this is correct. And we'll be passing the name of the taxonomy. So in our scenario is compliance taxonomy. And this is the name of the data class we want. And this should be passed to the data classification attribute. And this will allow us to tag our data with this public information. So for example, if I go here to the log, I can add here to the user ID to be public or for the chat ID to be public.
So there was a question here in chat. I'm going to throw it up real quick.
Yeah,
So Henry from YouTube was saying, why are they declared as static? And I can only assume that they were talking about like the compliance taxonomy properties.
yes, because they will be shared between the project. We don't need to create one for each class. It just be shared. So they have to be static.
And I think the other thing too that we kind of glossed over quickly is Mariam here is using the an internal partial static class for log, and this is actually the source generated logging capabilities. So if you're going to use anything in here, since these are static, you'll have to use a static also. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So I should have multiple data attributes here as well. So let's create a new one based on the taxonomy we have. So let's create one for the public, private, and let's, oh, not here. Item information attribute.
Yeah. While you add those, I'm going to make a comment, right? It's about the static question. So what we're doing here is just creating a helper so you don't have to redefine these data classifications over and over again. If you want to, you could use data classification directly, and they are equatable so that any data classification based off the taxonomy and name equals another one that has the same values. So there's no requirement to do it, but it's more like syntactic helper.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I have a lot of data attributes that were already created before this sample. So I'll be flipping those back so that we can see what can we do with those. So I have public information, private information, something for social security numbers, something for credit card numbers, something for any support data that is supplied from the customer or something from the customer data. And this will be used with the logs so that we can classify the data given to this logs based on these data attributes. So let's test these and see how will they be logged right now, and then see how with the redaction this will be done. Or after adding the attributes and setting up the redaction, what will be doing. So if I run this, I'm not sure I'm only sharing the Visual Studio, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so you will not be seeing the output, right? Or you will be?
No, I don't see any output.
Yeah. I think I should stop sharing and try that, right?
We are live, folks.
Yeah, so
no worries.
Do that. Share the entire screen, and it will be easier. You will be able to switch between Visual Studio and your console when it starts.
Yeah.
So while you're doing that, I just want to make sure I have my mental model correct. So one thing that you might have slightly been opinionated about is having a class called taxonomy that contains or defines all of your data classifications. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So is that pretty common then? Like I know lots of samples that are doing this follow that kind of same pattern. There's like this taxonomy, there's all these data classifications, and then those are going to be sprinkled onto your models. And then as the models are passed into arguments of the logging methods, they just, redact them and do whatever. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I'm just making sure I'm following, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm testing right now. So here.
Yep. We see it now.
Yep. So if I go, here we have in our controller, if I went to this path, it will be putting this log statement, which is log user. Okay. And it has some built-in data that I already created. So I just pass it the ID and it will just log these data.
Got it.
Okay. Or we can choose something simpler because it will log a lot of data. We can just use this one. So we'll try to run this one. Simple one. It will just log the user ID and the chat ID. Okay. So if I add just Mariam as the user ID, and here chats, I think chats, and then 1, 2, 3. Here it will log this simple log. This is the format: user ID, chat ID. The chat ID is 1, 2, 3, and this is Mariam. But what if I want Mariam to be something that's private? Not anybody can see it. It's supposed to be a private piece of information. So how can I do that? First, here we can log the data to be private information. So here we tell our data to be private. And then this private data, to be compliant, it's supposed to be removed or redacted. How can we do that? Okay, so first we should install the redaction package, which is Microsoft.extensions.compliance.redaction package. And then we will have to set up the redaction. We will have to go to the here. Yes, so I have already the code but commented. So we will have to add redaction and then pass it the options that we want. So in my case here, I just already set up this earlier. So we will be using for the private information, we can just comment the rest of them so that we can test them one by one. So here, I just created a simple redactor called the star redactor, and I will be using it to redact the private information. And I will comment this as well. So if I run now, what should happen? Okay. And if I'm going to the same path, it will redact the user ID and leave the 1, 2, 3. So my simple redactor, what it actually does, it just replaces the string with the asterisks. So it just lists the string and replaces it with the same length as asterisks. So since we use or deal with the user data or user ID as a private piece of information, we redact it, and this is what is saved later. What is shown to what will be shown when you store the logs. So no data will be leaked if you consider this data to be private.
And that's very timely because we actually had MaxiTB from YouTube asking, like, how does this work with format templates of MS logging? That's exactly what you're showing here, is like those message templates and like the holes for the different, like the placeholders, so to speak. That's exactly how it works, in fact.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, exactly. So for example, we have here if a person should be supplying the credit card number, which is not supposed to be happening anyway, but say for example, there's a scenario that you have to do that. So I created already an attribute for credit card number. And if some person went to this API just to supply the credit card number to this request, this credit card number, I want it to be redacted as well because this is a private piece of information. So I already created some redactor for the credit cards, which will be replacing all the numbers with X's instead of, and the last 4 numbers will be kept as is. So it just takes in the string, the whole string, and just replaces the 4 last digits, keeps them as they are, and replaces the first digits with X's. So I go to the logs and I added here, make sure I added the credit card number here to be with the correct attribute, and as we agreed that the user is private piece of information, will be safe. Oh, I didn't apply the redaction, so. Sorry.
Well, that's good to show though that like there's different steps to it, right? Like so you can be very declarative and expressive and annotate your models with those attributes to say this piece of information should be redacted. But if you forget to wire up the redactor, guess what? It's not going to work.
Exactly. Yeah. So
what? It's not magic?
It's kind of magic.
Oh, it's close. It's close. Yeah.
So here, the credit cards, and I just apply bill number so that it makes sense. So here, it will be showing the credit card, just showing us the last 4 digits, and it will be redacting the user ID as well. But if I didn't add the data attribute for the logging, it will not be, for the user ID, it will not be redacting the user ID. And if I didn't add it here, it will not be redacting the credit card either. Yes. And if we have some big class for the user data, that where we store everything. So I have a class for the user data that I already created. I can tag each thing for it. So I already created those.
I might be jumping ahead too already, but like I'm curious. So like I noticed that you're doing individual properties now instead of parameters on the methods. Could you do like the whole object, like the top level object?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Okay.
So here, if I'm loading the user data here,
Yeah.
and I'm already annotating that the user ID is private, the username is public, the email is customer data. This will be handled as per the redactor given to each data classification. So I already have here in the startup the X redactor for the credit card numbers and for the social security numbers. I have the star redactor for the private information. I can also use something that's built in .NET called the null redactor, which will not do anything at all. It will just keep the information as it is. Just to
That goes back to if you want to be super explicit, you could do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That these things will not be removed.
That's a bit confusing though, because I would have assumed like the null redactor would either be like, I guess, handling if there's like a null and doing something different, or just saying like there's nothing there to it doesn't, like whatever it's given, it just nulls it out.
Yeah,
so that's kind of that's an interesting name.
So this is a good segue right now to talk about what's the default, right? So if your redactor provider can't find a configured redactor, it defaults to the erasing redactor, which is what you said.
Okay.
It will replace everything with just an empty string.
Got it. Okay.
And null redactor here is more of the null object pattern, is what this is, where it's a no op. It really doesn't do it.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. And also .NET has something built in other than the erasing redactor and the null redactor, which is the HMAC redactor, which is based on the HMAC algorithm. So it takes on a key, which is a base string, base 64 string, and it just hashes the string that you want to redact. And it's pretty useful in the applications where you want to correlate between different parts. So you want to know if this is the same. So if something caused an issue and you want to know if this is the same as something else, you can just take the hashed keys and they should be the same if it's the same thing. It will always result in the same output if it's given the same input.
We did have kind of a that's really good to know. This was an earlier question I just wanted to bring up really quick here before it gets too far up in our chat. Reset button pushed from Twitch was asking, does this function by using source generators or reflection? Like the entire mechanics of how this is built.
Right. So it's using source generation behavior by default. It's a supplement of what .NET source generator is doing. And so this is part of .NET extensions. It's called the extended logger is what it is. But yeah, it's all source generation.
Love it.
Yeah. So for the HMAC redactor, it usually takes the key ID and just concatenate it to the output so that you can correlate or understand that this key is going out or this hashed output is coming out from this specific application or this service, so that you can understand better the output coming out from your logs. And these key and PIDs should be rotated once in every while, so that to make sure that your data stays private and nothing leaks out. So now I have set up most of the redactors that I'll be using, and here I'm loading the user ID. So I'll be hitting here get user so that it can load the user, and we can see all of the redaction happening all together.
Let's see it.
Let's see. I hope it doesn't break.
I'm sure it'll work. You've been doing great so far.
Okay. So users, what is the data exactly? So user ID. Okay. So we here go to user and just supply any ID. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Here I just return the whole object, but let's see the logs, which is the important thing. So we can see that all of the redaction worked. Social security number is redacted. We only have the last 4 digits. Credit card is also redacted. We have only the last 4 digits. Phone number is public. We have said that clearly, and we use the null redactor for it to make sure that it will be as it is. So the phone number is the same. The email, we asked for the email to be redacted using the HMAC redactor. So this is the output, something that is not comprehensible at all.
So then that leading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the HMAC, just so I understand that, for like the email, does that mean that that's like a public key? So then if some other service or something elsewhere wants to like decode that HMAC, it can, if it has the same private key or something, or?
Not necessarily. So this is the key ID that identifies which system this was hashed for, right? And
Okay.
so it's part of that configuration. So
Okay.
you can imagine if you have multiple services and you have a different key for each service, you could have this ID so you could identify, oh, these 2 hashes, if it comes from the same service, it's the same value. If it's
Okay.
from different services and they have the same hash, you can't guarantee that it's the same value.
Got it. Okay, I like that.
User is public and the user ID is private. So everything was redacted as we wanted exactly.
Awesome. Well, so you did show, if you go, can you go back to the user data object? I want to see that real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's no top level attribute, because that was going to be my next like question. So is there like a level of specificity that is considered with these? Like, so if we had like, say like the top level object on user data, say we want to decorate that as like the null redactor. And then underneath that, like one of the properties is attributed such that it doesn't use the null one, it uses something else because it's technically more specific. Is that how this is kind of designed?
I think it takes into consideration each thing, how it is tagged. So if something is specifically asked for to be null, it will not be redacted and the rest will be. So you mean if here I use something that is handled by another redactor, right?
Yeah. Like so exactly. So like if the top level object, like user data, is attributed with something that says like, I want these to all be asterisks, but then the email, I want that to be the HMAC. Could you decorate it that way and then it works such that, like, I guess how does that work?
I think I see where you're going here, David. So another example would be, what if you decorated the class with the private information attribute and then maybe public information for the username property? Would it?
Right. What's the behavior then?
Yeah.
I don't think that we support top level attributes on the class itself. The attribute, if you look at it, it's a member only attribute.
Oh, okay. Or parameters, right? Because you can apply those to parameters.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it actually makes a lot of sense, and it reminds me of the way you do authorization with ASP.NET, right? So you could say at the controller level, I want to use this authorization, but you could override it at the individual method.
Yeah, something to consider. Feature requests. I understand this is open source, right, folks who are
Sounds
watching?
like David just volunteered to do the work for you.
Yeah, and it will be well documented, I'm sure.
No, what I would do is I would create an issue and then I would assign it to Copilot to implement it.
Sure.
That's smart.
We did have another question come in real quick. If I may interject here too, another opportunity to do so.
Yes, please.
So a user on YouTube here is asking, what strategies do you recommend for testing that redaction is correctly applied? Are there diagnostic tools or techniques?
Answer for you.
Oh,
I do.
okay.
I was going to bring it up later on when I get my turn.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
We got that for you.
Cool.
So stay tuned for more.
I just wanted to mention something really quick. So you can also create some audit reports to make sure that your service complies and that you are applying the correct data parameters to correct data types. So to make sure that you are tagging the correct data classification to the correct data coming to the to your service or your application. So there is some source generator that you use when you install this package, Microsoft Extensions.audit reports. And if you added these two build properties, this will allow the source generator to take in and create the just remove the comments real quick, and create the auto report for you that will show you what are the data classifications that are used in the program you're creating, and so that you can just make sure that everything is tagged correctly and you are not leaking any data and that your service is compliant. So now I have the generate compliance report set to true, and I'm setting the report output path to be in the bin folder. If I rebuild the solution and I have now my logs to be, just let me get back all my changes, so because I have everything already tagged before. Awesome.
By the way, that's a cool way to use Git in a demo.
Yeah, I noticed that too right away. I was like, oh, that's clever. Yeah, I like that.
I thought about it, but I never did it, and I think it's smart. You did it like.
Yeah, because so many people like have like a little snippets directory where they're copying and pasting things
But
over.
it's clean, right? You just kind of bloop, set it.
Right.
I love it.
Click the button.
I'll definitely reuse that one. Thank you. You're just starting a movement. You didn't know. It's a new trend. We'll see that tomorrow on TikTok and every. This is. Did you know that you could use Git? Sorry, my brain just go.
So after the application,
Wait till you guys learn about stashes.
Oh no, I know about stashes. Come on.
So after building the application, it created in my bin debug folder a compliance report. Can you see this screen? Yes, you can. Okay, so here it shows me all of the data attributes or data classification types that I'm creating. So here in the log, we have login methods, and here it uses a data classification called credit card number on a data data called credit card, and I'm using private information on something called user ID, and using customer data and support data for something called customer data. And so this will become very handy in auditing and making sure that everything is compliant and your service is not setting wrong data classification to the data coming into your application.
But
So this is important. It shows the exact location and source that's being used.
Yeah.
So the line,
That's-
the type and everything.
that's interesting though, because I was just gonna say like, how compliant is this really? Because it's letting me know that there's a C drive, so I know right away you're on a Windows machine where this was generated. So is this really compliant, or should you be redacting that also? Of course, that's sarcasm.
Do you mind zoom in a little bit, Mariam, so people can, since like we're.
I'm zooming in, but it's not zooming in.
You can hold Control and just mouse wheel up.
That's what I'm doing.
Then Control plus.
Control Shift plus, or like Control,
Shift.
yeah.
Let's see. Where is the plus? Ah, yeah. Oh, that's too much.
There you go.
Nice.
That's it.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's just, so since we were examining this so people can read.
And scrutinizing it, and
Exactly,
then imagining redactors that don't exist for the report
You know,
itself.
you ask us to zoom in as soon as we're talking about social security numbers.
Yeah.
Is that a credit card I spy? Nice. I'm gonna go try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. That's
I see with my little spy's eyes. Was it something like that?
hopefully now Darius and Mariam, because they were both nervous. I'm gonna call you out on stream. They were both nervous how laid back this is. Like we're just like, yeah, we're having fun. We're having fun.
We're having fun. Yeah. Yeah, and then Darius will speak to you about HTTP logging and how it connects with the redaction.
Awesome.
interface.
Awesome. Let's check it out.
Yeah. If you guys switch over to my Dark mode would be good.
Woohoo! Dark mode. I mean, I'm not excited for that. My eyes aren't blinded.
I wanted to call out a couple of things before we jump off here. There's two pieces, right? We have the compliance primitives, which is the data classification, and it's not opinionated at all. And by default, it really doesn't do anything. You could use them to create attributes. You could tag models, but it really doesn't have any effects or features other than you're just annotating code, right? And so you could actually use that to build up your own framework to do whatever you want with, right? Whether it's saying, similar to the report we generated, hey, here's all the data that I have, and here's what I consider its classification to be. And so that's one side. The other side is redaction, right? So redaction actually uses the compliance attributes to say, hey, now I'm going to actually do something with it. And we saw the source-generated logging, which is really cool. It uses complex object logging, as you saw, and you could nest even the complex objects using the transitive feature, which we didn't show. And so you could even have like nested complex objects in using these attributes. What I'm going to show is also how it hooks into the native ASP.NET Core HTTP logging, right? And so here I have basically the state of where Mariam left off, and I'm going to add in the HTTP logging middleware so that we can see it. So I have a filter right now. We're setting it to none. I'll deal with that in a minute. And here we have basically the same add redaction stuff that we saw from Mariam. So if we add in the add HTTP logging, not log enricher, that's something else. Add HTTP logging. This is the ASP.NET logging middleware. Now to get redaction hooked up with that, we can add in add HTTP logging redaction. So logging redaction takes quite a few different options that you can configure here. One of them is the request path parameter redaction mode. And so if you think this is the incoming logs from HTTP controllers, right? And you want to say for each of the parameters, what do we define our behavior to be? So the redaction mode can be strict, loose, or none. None means even if I classify something, it's not going to do anything. It's more of something you would do during development or debugging to make sure that, like let's say you have a value that doesn't match and you need to confirm its actual value, you could do that. Loose mode says all parameters are considered non-sensitive by default and are passed in to the logs as is. And then strict is the opposite of that. It says every parameter is sensitive no matter what, and you have to explicitly annotate it to be some data classification. Even if it's public, you would have to explicitly annotate it. And so that calls back into what David was talking about earlier, which is you could be as explicit as you want, or you could be as loose as you want. So this is, I'm going to go with strict. And the next one is the path logging mode. Yes, request path logging mode. We could either do like structured logs or formatted logs. Structured logs would be like the JSON output. We have all the different attributes in the JSON. Formatted mode would be the overall formatted string, right? So if you take the format and you apply the parameters, you would see that. I'm also going to go with the structured mode. And then we have a couple of options here. One of them is on the controller itself. On the incoming parameter, we can also use those data attributes to annotate them. So I could say this is private information on the string ID. And as you know here, we're using structured logging, but now I'm going to enable the HTTP logging. So we'll be able to see the request come in and then see the ID get redacted because it's private information now. One of the other things we could do is instead of doing it at each controller, because you can imagine, hey, my app has 100 controllers or something, and I have like, X times number of parameters. That's a lot of different places I need to kind of control things. You could also do it centrally from this option set up here with the route parameter data classes. And so route parameter data classes is a dictionary. We can add different items to it. And basically you're adding the name of the parameter and then the data classification itself. And so if you say, I have a bunch of controllers that use parameters that are called ID, we could set them all at the same time by using this method here. And we are going to also consider them classification. Wait, what did we call it, Mariam? I'm just going to call it taxonomy. There we go. Private information. So this would, yep, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, so this is making me think, like, one thing that you keep saying, and Mariam showed this too, was controllers. Now, I did just want to make sure I understand this fully. Like, we can use this for minimal APIs as well, right?
Yes, yes, you can.
And since it's a Microsoft.extensions library, that means it's common across the entire .NET ecosystem. So we have a friend here from Facebook who's actually asking, is this something that they could actually apply to like a Maui project?
Good question. I'm not quite familiar with Maui, to be honest.
Okay.
But there's nothing preventing you from using these primitives and hooking into the framework itself to do whatever you want, right?
So as long as like the compliance data classifications exist, they're using the right packages, they're wiring up the services for redaction, and they're using it with like the standard .NET logging, it should work, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you're using standard .NET logging, it's going to work out of the box. Yeah. But again, like you can hook into the provider itself and manually call redact on anything you need. And we're going to show that a little bit here soon too. So yeah, I just wanted to show that we can control the parameters, the data classification centrally, or you could do it at the actual individual parameter level. There's also options that we're not going to go into here, but you can set data classifications on the request and response headers too. So say you have like a sensitive header that you still want to log as part of the .NET HTTP logging, but you don't want to expose it, right? So you can, let's say like authorization header or something like that, right? So you could also classify those and they will get redacted. Yeah, so let's go ahead and run where I'm at here. I hope that I don't have anything breaking. Yeah.
I can but only suggest that you update this to be user ID because we don't have any ID in.
I just added, yep, I did.
Just make sure.
Yep, we have ID right here.
That's only one. Okay.
Yep. And let's jump over. Hopefully, I need a new window.
I like that more dynamic way to centralize all the stuff. Initially, I thought, like, okay, you do maybe a base controller and you apply that, but that's even better.
All right, so we're at users, user ID. And
I do see, I'm just going to think out loud while you're pulling that up. I do see the value in what someone was kind of, I think, alluding to earlier, where they're saying, like, how do we go about testing these certain things? It's almost like we could provide some sort of like out of the box analyzer that looks for like common, like, member names or parameter names that match classified data that is like corresponding to those things. It's like just common, and do like a loose, like, oh, it looks like you're having an ID parameter here, and you've got this. Have you considered using this attribute with it?
Yeah,
just thinking out loud.
Analyzers can be used in that regards. That calls out common things. I don't think we have any built in though right now. Any analyzers? No. Yeah.
More features. We'll get Scott to write them.
More features, yeah. One thing I was going to say is I did enable HTTP logging, but I set this earlier to none. So we need to add the log filter to be able to get that in. And then one other part here, just the standard app.use HTTP logging to get the middleware all the way in. So with that, I think we are good to show now. Suspense.
Wait for it.
Yep. All right. So let's refresh here, and then
you can click the pretty print button too to make it.
I could, if you would just want to see everything. And That's not my actual social security number, so that's good.
I was going to try it. So.
I was waiting for Frank to ask us to zoom in there.
Yep. So the first one here is the source generated log that we showed earlier. The next one here is the HTTP log, and ID is actually being not redacted. Did I do something wrong?
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. What's the debug? So we set the logging redaction at HTTP logging. Did we call enable redaction? We did enable redaction.
Apply discriminator. Could you maybe explain what that does real quick in that options object?
Yeah, I was wanting to gloss over that. So by default,
Sorry.
So you have to call enable redaction on the logging builder in order to enable redaction.
Okay.
A discriminator is an option of the way redaction works, where it will actually tag the name of the parameter with the value. So whenever you, let's say, use HMAC, right? And you have two different parameters that may share the same value, but you don't want them to be hashed at the same value. So apply this discriminator, and the hash will be different because they're
Got it. Okay, nice.
For the sake of the demo, it wasn't that important, so we just set it to false. And yeah, but that's what it's useful for, is HMAC, really.
Nice.
So let's look back into what I did. I should have everything fine.
And then the controller itself, there's the ID, and you say private information.
Yes. And then startup, we have the redaction. It's strict.
Route
structure.
Parameter data classes ID, private information.
Private information is star reductor. Yeah.
So you're a real developer because we've encountered a bug. Your Darius is not Copilot.
I can't hear you, Mark.
So you using the fdebug, you're injecting the null redacted provider. So you're
wow. Thank you, Mariam.
Yes.
So yes, if we're debugging, we're actually overriding the reductor provider to say, no matter what, don't do anything.
I love it.
Let's go to release mode. Good.
Free processor compiler directives. You gotta love it. Those are always fun. Good eye, Mariam.
Yeah. So let's refresh again. We got the same thing. And then as we jump here, hey, look at that.
Yay.
We're redacting our HTTP parameters now. And that matches exactly what the log provider was doing, this source generated logging. Yeah, so that's kind of HTTP logging. Next, I wanted to jump over into how do we unit test this, right?
Ooh, fun.
There was a question that came up in the chat, and obviously it's super important. So I created a unit test project, uses XUnit here. I want to add my source project that we're using. I do have a test service that is injected into the DI container. This takes dependency on the iRedactor provider, which is the primitive used that controls which redactor is applied, right? And so the default redactor provider uses the options that you specify in add redaction. So this add redaction method is basically setting up the default provider. If you do like I did earlier with the debug, you could override that and you could create your own provider and have whatever logic you need for those. We also need a class. So I have this class and we need a package. And that package is, let's go, if I can type right. It's always fun doing this live, right? Like you type and you're the fastest ever, and then when you need
no pressure.
So we're going to add a package reference to Microsoft extensions compliance testing.
I love that there's a first class citizen like testing package. That's always a good sign of like some primitives. I like it.
That's something that we've been trying to do in .NET extensions, really,
Yeah.
is add fakes and other things that you could use to unit test properly. So I've added that package, and for sake of...
Oh, you did the thing I talked about earlier, where you have snippets and you just copy them.
Yeah, Mariam was smart. I'm doing the old school way, right? So we
Oh,
could
that's
just talk
funny.
about what I'm doing here, right? So I'm creating a service collection. I'm adding a method that come from the package we added called fake redaction. Fake redaction adds a fake redactor provider. It also adds a fake redactor, which you can specify whatever format you want. And here I'm saying replace anything with the redacted tag and the original value. The default for this is just the original value, so it really wouldn't do anything. So this helps you determine an output. Hey, it's doing what I really want it to do. I resolve the test service from the service provider. And if we jump over and look at what that test service is doing, it's processing some sensitive data. The way that it's doing it is calls the redactor provider to get the redactor based off the taxonomy we want. So I'm saying, give me the redactor for customer data. And then on that, I'm calling redact and redacting the sensitive data and returning the redacted data. So this is not really a good real world use case here, but it just shows you you could hook into the redactor provider. You can call redact manually, and we can also unit test on it. So that's the really important thing here. So we resolve the fake redaction collector, which basically collects all the different operations that you're doing behind the scenes with the redactor provider. And we're processing our sensitive data. So what this result should be is what we just specified as the format and then the original value. So you can see that assertion here. We're also asserting that the last requested redactor, its data classification, matches what test service was asking for, which was customer data. And then we could also do some other assertions such as, give me the last redacted data, give me the redacted format. It should be what we responded with on the process data. And so those should also be the same. And then we could also check, hey, what was the original data for that last redacted data? And then we can verify it's the original format, original data too. And so if we build this and then check out the test, there we go. Take Test Explorer. And we run our test. It should all pass if everything works right. Yeah. And so that's how you would do unit testing, using the primitives, using fake redactor. There's some other things I think you could do with it is, for example, get all. Yes, so get all requests and get all data, or you can get the last data and the last requested. And so basically with that, you have everything you need to verify that your pipeline and your setup works right, that the taxonomies that you've created are used properly, that the formats that you want are used properly. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, this is fantastic. And we started with Mariam explaining the basics and defining taxonomies and data classifications, and then applying your attributes to the models, and then you showed us HTTP and then testing, and wow, you guys did a great job. I learned a lot. We do have a question. So Twitch user is asking, what about protobuf? Is it possible to mark proto models with annotations to exclude sensitive information from logs during transcoding and logging the entire request?
Not sure, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I was thinking about that too. I responded to them. I said, that's a really good question, because I know that's a very common thing. And that's protobuf, that's gRPC, right? So very common, just like.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I know we have some gRPC work on the horizon. I'm not quite sure how much would make it to .NET extensions, honestly.
Sure.
But there is work being done right now using gRPC and protobuf that does take advantage of the redaction features that Microsoft.NET already does.
well, I'm going to throw it right back to the user and say, if this is a feature that's important to you, I would encourage you to go either start a discussion or open an issue in one of the repositories, either the runtime or the extensions or wherever, some of these common bits are coming from, and have that discussion with the team and see, they're very open to that. And I always try to encourage the community to check it out and try to interact in that regard. So
yeah,
awesome.
Timing's also important there. As you guys know, .NET 10's like right on the horizon. So all the planning and everything has already been done for that. If we need to get on the roadmap, we need to do it soon.
Yep.
Talking about the roadmap, I know we discussed about it just before going live, but how does that work? Do you know already like what's coming up and stuff? Do you have a roadmap, or since it's an open source, how do you?
Yeah, well, for .NET 10, it's already kind of cut and ready to go. We're just doing the final private previews. There's no new features yet for this compliance area. However, on the horizon for that next release, I guess .NET 11 is what it would be, we are looking at what's called partial redaction. Now, as you saw here, what we're doing with redaction is basically redacting the entire string, where partial redaction would be more like what you would think of a scrubber doing, where it takes an entire text and it redacts portions of that text. So this would be good for things like taking a Word document or something like that, and then scrubbing it and replacing everything with redaction and then returning that. So that is going to be coming on the horizon, I say, for the next release.
That reminds me of my profanity filter app I wrote that it actually runs with the GitHub Action, but it does just that. Like, so if there's ever profanity that's detected in like a GitHub issue comment or description, it'll read all of that and then redact just parts of it. And you can choose how you redact it. So that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Love it. Awesome. Well, anything else? Any other? I don't think there's any other questions.
I think we did pass through all the questions. Great question, Chad, by the way. That was lovely to have questions. It's always very appreciated.
Yeah, very interactive.
Yeah.
And here is, scrolling across the bottom, this is the sample code so that you can go get your hands on this and start interacting with it and kind of furthering your experience with compliance in .NET. So awesome. Well, this has been great.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you to Darius and Mariam to join us today and share us more. So now we could do the stuff right. Before we wrap up, is it the time for the dance? I didn't forget. I'm sorry, David. we still have. You have like.
I'm not dancing. I don't dance.
Oh,
Is there some kind of
next time.
redaction attribute we could apply to David?
It's been redacted. The dance has been redacted.
Private information.
Right. How about this? To be fair and inclusive, I'll dance if everyone else dances. See what I did there?
Okay, so with that, well, thank you everybody for joining. It's a community show, so feel free to watch the recording on YouTube. It will be available there, and looking forward to see you on the next one. Awesome. Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you all.
Bye.
See you.